Welcome to Midlife Butterfly, where transformation gets real through every twist and turn of your journey. When you are empowered and fully love yourself, you'll embrace the messy, magical process of transformation with open arms. I am Kenna as you, and this is your space to feel seen, heard, and inspired by real talk. So you don't just create a life you love, you live it every single day with unapologetic joy and freedom. Hello, welcome back, beautiful soul, to this episode. We are going to talk about how to move from loneliness to enjoying solitude. I've been in several Facebook groups and also talking to women, and I have friendships as well. And there's a lot of women actually feeling lonely. And this happens mainly after a life transition. Either it is, the process of our awakening, breaking a romantic relationship, of changing to a new job or moving to a new city or country. We go through different, life experiences that can, cause us to feel lonely. And also it can be caused by wounds or trauma, or it's simply part of our personality, right? It could be that we are lone wolves. And it doesn't have to stay like this. We can actually move forward, we can shift. And that's why I actually invited a beautiful panel of 3 wonderful women who will share their stories and their wisdom to help you move the needle toward enjoying your solitude. And it's a pleasure to have you, all of you here, Kenna Brooke, Linda Brandt, and Rachel Anderson. Thank you so much for being here. I'm very grateful and honored. And I would like you to introduce yourself in a couple of minutes, and then we start with the conversation of going deeper into that topic. Would you like to start, Kenna?
Sure. So I am Kenna Brooke, and thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to have a conversation around this because I feel like it's such a powerful, potent, really what I like to consider which works really well with your podcast name, the Midlife Butterfly. I really like to think of these moments of solitude as cocoons for those kinds of transformations that you were mentioning. And certainly midlife and menopause and all the shifts and changes that come with that is a massive opportunity to be in a cocoon and come out as a butterfly on the other side. I am trained as a naturopathic doctor, but I am stepping out of the clinical side of life and moving more into really working with people to remember who they are and connect to their soul. And solitude is a beautiful way to do that. So I'm very excited to be here to have this conversation. Thank you for inviting me.
A pleasure. Thank you. Okay, you want to do your share, Linda?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I absolutely love the name of your podcast, Midlife Butterfly, because it resonates so much. I love butterflies. 2, I've been on the healing growth journey for quite a while. Changed my whole life 2.5 years ago and sold my home for 25 years and relocated across the country. And I've been literally cocooning for 2 years in my apartment with my dog. So I have a lot to say on this topic, but I'm a certified life coach with through the Brave Thinking Institute. That happened this year. I have a podcast, Empowered, and I'm writing my book, my memoir, inspiring memoir. And ultimately, my journey is very, it's a lot of post-trauma, a lot of overcoming, and I'll share more during the conversation and podcast. I appreciate you having me. Ultimately, I have a lot to say on being alone and self-love. So that's a gigantic piece of my teaching and coaching is worthiness and self-love. And that is what I would love to share more of. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, we're definitely going to dig into self-love and worthiness. I feel you there. What about you, Rachel?
Hi, I'm Rachel Anderson, and I guess I would refer to myself as just a student of life in general. I have been on kind of my own healing journey since childhood, really, due to some life experiences that I would have never chose, but turned out that I'm very grateful for them now. So I spent a lot of time career-wise doing things that were very unfulfilling and not aligned with my soul. So the last few years, specifically, I've had several major life transitions. The most recent one being ending the relationship with my partner of 9 years and the father of my kids. And that has brought on just like a whole nother level of growth that I didn't feel necessarily ready for at the time. So when I started into this world, I'm still working on this. I have books that I've been writing and podcast episodes that I've recorded that haven't gone anywhere. And like that's all under the umbrella of Real Girl Healing. It will be called eventually. But yeah, I'm just so grateful to be here and to be able to have the conversations with these amazing women. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so let's jump in. This will be a question that it will be really short answers from you, which is if you could describe the beauty of solitude in one word or phrase, what will it be and why?
I'll go. Yeah.
Go, Linda.
I would say peace.
Mm.
And why it would be because I find it so peaceful. I think it's later in life, being that I'm 56, I enjoy quiet. I enjoy my own company. I enjoy quiet and peace. It's very peaceful to me, and there's no drama, there's no negativity. It's just ultimately I find it joyful and peaceful and positive. So I can do what I want when I want. And it's yeah, solitude is just, and you get to choose your thoughts consciously, and yeah, and notice what you're noticing. And it's, to me, it's, I think it's a superpower of mine, actually, self-care and self-love, and ultimately enjoying my own company, because so many people can't. And for many years, when I was much different than I am today, because I grow all the time, I'm not the same person 2 weeks as I was yesterday, 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. But when I was raising my son as a single parent, I always had to have plans when he wasn't around, always. Where now I enjoy my calendar being empty. I enjoy being alone. I do. People think it's weird, but it's a choice. But I've been abandoned by family and abandoned multiple times, and that's part of the book that I'm writing, Abandoned to Abundant. But it's always a gift. There's always an underlying gift, in my opinion, for everything that's perceived to be negative. So
yeah, beautiful. Thank you for your share. What about you, Rachel?
I think for me, first of all, I love the word peace in general. Like that was my word of the year this year. Is just like that's all I was seeking. And that's before any of this happened. But yeah, I would agree with peace wholeheartedly. And I think for me, the first word when I think about this that came up was actually enlightenment. Because I just feel like the transition between thinking of loneliness and thinking of solitude just has so much to do with acceptance. So I feel that, yeah, just to be able to embrace and accept something that could be perceived as negative by a higher number of the population. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say on that.
Beautiful. Thank you. What about you, Kenna? How would you describe solitude?
What both Linda and Rachel shared, and I feel like my word is kind of a culmination of both of them. So the word that comes to mind for me is wonder, and that's actually The name of my company and the podcast that I'm launching in February is called Endless Wonder. And the reason for wonder is because I feel like, one, we have the opportunity for that peace. We actually take the noise of everyday life away, all of the expectations of others and the feelings of I need to be what's desired of me. And by removing all that noise in that solitude and in that time alone, I feel like we're really able to then reconnect to our soul and our soul's inner voice that is so quiet in comparison to the noise of the world. So when we step outside of that, now all of a sudden we can hear the soul's voice. We can start to come into alignment with really what we're here to be doing. And it starts to expand. And then that leads to, like Rachel mentioned, that sense of enlightenment of like really understanding why we as an individual are here. It's not for meeting the expectations of someone else, but we're so constructed in that we're terrified often to be alone because we don't have the voices coming in to tell us what we should be doing or thinking about or how we should be moving through the world. And so I think it's really an opportunity like that cocoon or like a transformation, like you guys were talking about. So many things can happen: loss of a loved one, a loss of a relationship, loss of a job, loss of a location, loss of a dream. I mean, so many things that can create these opportunities where we can either choose to go out into the world and listen to what everyone else says we should do with it, or to take that solitude to really listen inwardly. And I think from all of that, the wonder of looking at the world through childlike eyes, of like really recognizing what an amazing experience it is to be human, even when we go through those difficult portals of transformation or metamorphosis that, like you said, most people don't desire and we try to avoid. And if we can just embrace that or just step into it or really more surrender into it, then I think the enlightenment and the peace and the wonder of what this opportunity is bringing and what this humanity is about can be so much more present, just right there.
Oh, wow, beautiful. Thank you so much for your shares. We're going to dig in a bit more with that. I just want to do my share. For me, really, enjoying my solitude, the one word that comes to me is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that freedom of having my own time, like to do my own activities, my morning routine, go to the groceries whenever I want to go, be naked when I want to be naked in my apartment, or listening to music that is not very common to other people, and having that kind of freedom and that solitude, and also being able to have that time, again, what I want to cocoon, and then I can choose if then I want to spend time for other people or if just want to be, on my own. So so we get peace, enlightenment, wonder, and freedom. Wow. And one of the things that it sounds kind of like in common, at least from Kenna and Linda, it's about then being able to choose our thoughts, because I do believe, and I want you to give me your shares in here, that one of the reasons why we don't enjoy our solitude, it's because we are afraid of what we are thinking. Mm-hmm. As you said, Kenna, we are used to people telling us what to do, what to consume, all this noise around, that we get alone. When we are lonely, it's when we really start then listening to what our mind is telling us, and we are so afraid of that. So what are your thoughts on this, of being one of the reasons why we don't like to be lonely?
I think that we're programmed to hate ourselves. I think that this is a true program. We're taught to compare ourselves. We're taught to criticize ourselves. We're taught we're not enough, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not thin enough, all the things. This is a program that most of society and worthiness. So all of that I just said stems from feeling or allows us to feel unworthy, not good enough. Where when
Yes.
you are feeling that way, then you don't want to be by yourself. Like I said, when I was younger and, a single mom, and when I had time to myself, I didn't want to be alone. I'm not sure exactly, other than probably it was, I'm not sure what exactly that was, but ultimately today, it's a whole other thing because I enjoy my own company. And like Kenna was saying, and both of you were saying, all of you, being alone brings freedom. Being alone brings, so much peace and wonder, and you just get to do whatever. But yeah, I think those thoughts, I have had to, everything's a practice. Yoga's a practice, exercise is a practice, loving yourself is a practice, and thinking positive thoughts and loving thoughts to yourself is a practice. Noticing the negative thought, which is on repeat. Like it's just a program. I'm telling you, it's in our minds. We are not our minds. We're not our bodies. We are, in my belief is we're spiritual, energetic beings having this human experience. So all the programs are there. The mind, like you said, Kenna, it's, yeah. So that's what I believe, that, that's the program is negativity, hate, self-hatred. And so I realized in the last 2 years, I really hated myself and I didn't know it. I thought I was, I'm gonna, take myself to this, invest in I mean, I just, you don't realize till you are by yourself, the growth and the healing and all the things, right? I didn't realize how much unprocessed trauma I had in my life. It's just wild. So tons of growth has happened since I changed my whole life and relocated across the country, and it's been a giant blessing. So I'm just grateful. And yeah.
Mm, thank
I think
you.
it's interesting because to me, it's not even just if we either try to avoid those thoughts in our minds by being with other people, or we also often will just fill that void with noise. So even if we're
Yes.
physically alone, we're not actually in solitude because we're constantly consuming, whether it's podcasts or even things that are great and that help us grow. But if there's a constant need to stay busy and to have the mind occupied,
Yeah.
then we never have that opportunity for that small, still voice to start to get louder. And like Linda was talking about, like she didn't even realize that there was still all of this trauma that she hadn't processed because she was either out busy with other people, or if she was alone, probably consuming things. Like she said, when her son had something to do and when he was going to be away, she had to have something on the calendar. Because the idea of us being alone long enough and quiet enough without the outside noise and distractions and content consumption to actually start to hear that it's terrifying. It's the most empowering thing I think we can do ultimately, but it's like you have to be willing to kind of step into that dark night of the soul a little bit. And so I think that's why we live in such a society where there's constant busyness, constant noise. You wake up and you're immediately picking up your phone and starting your day, and there's just lack of space for your soul to really start to communicate with you. So I think it's so important not just to think about the actual thoughts in our mind, but also what we distract our soul from by staying in constant connection with other things and other people.
Yeah. Yeah, consuming constantly, as you said, and we don't allow really our mind to come through and to listen to it because we're listening to something else. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How would you like to comment on that, Rachel?
Totally. Like there's just so much there in everything that both of you said. And I think like the adversity to boredom and our own judgment of ourselves when we're in those states, stemming from, I think for myself, when I've been feeling like that, it's a lot to do with like feeling other people's judgment, even if they're not in front of me. Like, what am I supposed to do with this time? Like that pressure to always be like, they say, like a human doing, and like, how is this going to look? How am I going to report back on this later? I had this time to myself. What did I do with it? Like, I just feel like there's just, yeah. And like, and it does come back to self-worth and worthiness as well. And just knowing that like we can't believe everything that we think. And B, just when we start going down that rabbit hole, like I am so programmed to do, finding a way, like I don't know, an instant touch point or something to get you out of that as fast as possible. The other piece of it, I would say, just like from what I witnessed and the way I grew up around a lot of addiction, and I just think everyone's seeking that level of escape, whatever that looks like, and the immediate gratification in that, which kind of brings me full circle to just our adversity to boredom and learning how to sit with that and accept that and see all of the beautiful things that can come out of that when you can talk yourself into that place. Because that's what I've had to do over and over and over again in my life. So, yeah.
Oh. Mm. Mm. Thank you for your shares. So since all of us, we have been through this of then noticing that, yeah, it's so busy. There's a lot of noise over there. And then when we are alone, then we tend to then still get that noise, look for music, as you said, podcast, watching TV, whatever it is, we keep getting busy in there. What were for you kind of like the turning point, or when you finally decided, or you were pushed probably to say, okay, no, it's time to go within?
For me, I started hiring coaches in 2017, and every coach was a spiritual. They were all spiritual. I didn't know it. I mean, I was in real estate and I was just looking for somebody to help me grow my business and become, wealthier and heal my money stories and all that. And they were all spiritual. And I've just been growing ever since. And then I also overcame a debilitating illness in 11 and 12 and was misdiagnosed multiple times. And that's a whole story that I overcame, which was really the beginning of my spiritual awakening, I believe. But anyway, what was the exact question? It was about, sorry.
No, it was more like what brought you then to go really within and say, okay, I need to take the time to cocoon, basically.
I'm an empathic being. I was always told I'm too sensitive. And I really have a story over here because I was in real estate. I fell into real estate and, it was never my passion. I always like to say it's like Kathy Heller uses the analogy of a guitar being used as a planter. But anyway, I am licensed here too in Florida, but I was not happy. And I think that when you're not happy and you're struggling financially or whatever it is, like usually it's some negative circumstance that occurs. And that's, like I said, when I took myself to Miami to this event, this coaching thing, and I had this divine message, I belonged in Florida and changed my life and all that, but I was scared. And but when I moved here on my 55th birthday, which was, I've never had therapy ever from all of the stuff I went through. I was in trouble with the law when I was a child, teenager. I had no parenting supervision. My dad worked all the time. Anyway, I got into drugs and all the things. But the point is, I carried shame for 40 years. I never had a religious upbringing, all these things. So here I am trying to figure everything out and find out who am I, you know what I mean? And so my 55th birthday, my son was, I had a break. I had an emotional, like I'm crying my eyes out. Like I want, even though I'm happy, I'm pretty happy, I'm content with my life, my Florida life, my dog, my home, my businesses. I want something different. So I got a therapist after that. And then, I said, I want to be somewhere different next year. Anyway, long story short, I did grow and evolve and heal way more. But it's just like when that happened, and I'm like crying my eyes out at my 55th birthday, going like, yeah, I don't want to get emotional, but
Okay.
it's because we compare ourselves, and you're like, why does this person have that? And why do I have this? I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, but anyway, but basically I learned why I have what I have, because my trauma was never healed. I never learned so many basic things that, and so that's why I'm on this giant mission to teach self-love and worthiness, because I was never taught how to take care of myself, nothing. It's just been, it's been wild, but I love myself more today than ever. I accept myself more today than ever. And I'm still on the journey, but my heart is more open than it ever was either too. Because I remember being at an acupuncture like back in Michigan 4 years ago, and she's like, your heart's closed. And I'm like, my heart's closed. What is she talking about? I'm gonna have a heart attack. What does it mean? But anyway, it just meant, but yeah, so it's times like that when you decide, something has to change. And I'm just very self-aware, and I have a strong intuition. And I think knowing who you are and deciding that you are worthy of more, even if you have unworthiness and, hatred, you still know there's more. Like, I want more love, joy, money. I want these things, right? It could be ego. It's coming from ego. But regardless, you take the actions to make a difference. I do have courage. I have a lot of courage. That's something in my DNA, I guess, or whatever. So that's probably the thing. But God, I definitely had a divine message that I belonged in Florida, and that when I left Michigan and left that house and left all that, like my son even said, Mom, you released so much negative everything, but I was here a year when I had that emotional. So anyway, I want to take up all the time. I hope that answered.
Yes, yeah, I can relate to so many things what you said, like also like being in our midlife already, like finally realizing that we don't love ourselves, that we feeling worthy, that we're comparing to other ones, and yeah, thank you so much for that share. And yeah, we definitely gonna after Kenna and Rachel, they share, but I want to go a bit deeper and talk about that self-love and worthiness. I think those are topics that are very, very important and that we can relate, right? So who wants to go next? Kenna or Rachel? Like the question was more like, when did you finally, what was like the turning point for you to finally go in and look at yourselves?
Happy to go. I think we're both eager.
Go, Rachel.
I first of all really appreciate your vulnerability in that, Linda. Like it's a lot, and I have so much that I can relate to as well. Specifically, interestingly enough, around the birthday theme. Like it was my 40th birthday, just this past June, when my whole life was literally falling apart in a way that I had never expected. I had already started my kind of journey down the real girl healing path and wanting to help others, because I felt like my life experience to that point had been enough. And then I was completely derailed by betrayal in my relationship, leaving a job that was my security, and just was so burnt out. There was no way I could even function through the brain fog and everything else that I was experiencing in my day-to-day life. And just how long it took me to get to that place where I could admit to myself that it was just time to take a real break, whatever that looked like, and the level of surrender and trust in the universe that required of me to do. Turned out it was the right thing to do, because I'm still away from that job and experiencing so many amazing things as a result. But yeah, I spent my 40th birthday completely alone this year, crying, like I had been for months and months and months. And basically what happened in my relationship cracked me so wide open in a way that I needed so badly. I had spent probably the 10 years leading up to that breakup completely numb, like not able to feel my feelings whatsoever, to the point that any sort of like healer person that I came across, my first question to them would be, why am I so numb? Like, can you help me? I can't feel anything. And I wasn't able to access that until this happened to me. And I literally spent the better part of 6 months just in tears. And it was an experience like I've never had. There have been several stages of my life where I would say that I spent a lot of time lonely. Just the nature of how I grew up. I alluded to, like, I grew up around a lot of an alcoholic environment. My dad was an alcoholic, my mom was a workaholic, and it was me and my brother for the most part. And he was 5 years younger than me. And a lot of the things that had happened, I just felt like, even going into like my teenage years, I didn't have any peers that could really relate to me on any level of any of the experiences that I was having in my life. Like, and yeah, I think all that any of us truly want or crave is like that we have this deep craving for connection. And I think that through all of this, like, I ended up with a PTSD diagnosis actually at the end of it. And that was really shocking to me. But everybody that I have talked to since has not been so shocked by that. And I feel like these are the pieces that are like, I'm not going to let that label define anything or who I am, but it's just given me such a starting point, like a launch point, a turning point to embrace where I am and the growth opportunities that are available to me now. And as horrible and as much as I couldn't understand what was happening to me and to my life and to the life that I had thought I was before me at the time, as awful as that period of time was, I am so immensely grateful for that and the lessons that I've already received. I'm a different person than 6 months ago, and I was so ready to do this whole healing journey and helping other people heal at that point. And now I'm just like, there's a solid reason that this happened. And I think that's the turning point. And that.
Thank you all for sharing and also for being vulnerable. And yeah, I think what it really, after we go to that cocoon and that process, I think being able to be grateful for that it's I don't know, it's a different level. If that it's that understanding and that's acceptance of saying, yeah, like it was worthy to go through these processes, because then I feel that gratitude, and then this growth and soul expansion that we say is like, ah, yes, it was worthy. Yeah.
That's how we heal. Like the crying, like that Rachel and I, we both, it's feeling those feelings and getting that. It's how we heal.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's also one of the things what we don't want to, where we are afraid to face ourselves because we were not taught how to feel our emotions. they actually, most of the time, they hold us back, right? And so we are afraid of going on that route to actually feel what we are going through, because there's a lot of things at the same time. It's all the trauma or experiences that at one point they kind of like just catapult on us, and then we are like, we don't know what to do with all that heaviness over our shoulders. Yeah. Kenna, would you like to share your story of what was your turning point to go with then?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a long journey for a lot of years, and some similar but different themes of what we're hearing today. I've lived alone many times in my life and not been in relationships, and so I've had lots of time in my life where I was alone, quote unquote. But it was actually a particular experience that I had in late 2020. I had been laid off for the second time from a hospital that I was working at. I had moved back across the country to, reinstate myself in that job. And I was also really setting boundaries from a toxic relationship that had ended years before, but that still sort of had its tendrils in all of my life, and including my thoughts and what is he going to think about if I do this or that with my life, even though we weren't in relationship anymore. And I had cut some ties and created some strong boundaries several months prior, and then allowed that relationship to start to creep back in, not as a relationship, but just the voice still in my head, and then having a level of conversation. And it got to a place where I was waking up every morning feeling anxiety and feeling depression, and really believing to the core of me that it wasn't mine, that I wasn't anxious and I wasn't depressed, but I also recognized that the fact that I was not honoring what I needed for my strength, for my soul, which was to be in complete sovereignty over my life and not to allow these toxic voices to have any influence. I just realized I need to create an actual container for myself where I require these things to be gone. And so I created an experience for myself that at the time I called a soul sabbatical. It's now what I do for people is help curate experiences that I call wonder experiences. But it's creating a container and an environment that really creates those boundaries, so that I had nothing except myself. And there were moments where it was difficult. The only commitments that I made to myself were, one, to have some level of spiritual practice every day. And I did this for 11 days with no communication with the outside world. And then the other was to provide some level of self-care for myself each day. And the impact that made, the opportunity that gave me, as each day passed, I felt like one more layer coming off, one more layer coming off, one more layer coming off. By the time I was getting towards the end of that 11 days, I had the experience as the witness that I've never had to that capacity before, where I was really able to look almost from behind my life and see everything that was happening, and have more compassion for myself and more understanding for why this had been such a difficult road. I had, abandonment from family members when I was younger, all these things that were like culminating into this experience, that these circumstances all led me to this place where I recognized that I needed to cocoon, and I needed to have that safe container where I had everything I needed. And I think it's so interesting. I'm sure that you guys are familiar with this story, but like the whole process of the caterpillar turning into the butterfly and being in the cocoon, and it's literally basically dead, virtually dead. I mean, it's just a mush. There's nothing to it. There's no form. There's nothing that makes sense. And once it starts to actually transform into the butterfly, if we as humans in our kindness try to like help the butterfly out of the cocoon so it doesn't have to struggle through that, it never flies. That it actually requires the struggle to move the fluid out of the wings so that when the butterfly actually breaks free of the cocoon, it has the strength in the wings to be able to take flight. And so I think that these are those opportunities where we can fall apart, where we can be in our emotions, where we can scream and cry and hit things and do whatever it takes to allow it all to just start to unlayer and to come off and to go through that portal of transformation that then allows us to come out on the other side as a whole new way of being. And so I think for me, it was that experience. And now I see in my life in those moments where I'm starting to get trapped in caring about what other people think or making decisions based on other people's expectations. Or like Rachel was talking about, you know, what are other people going to think? Even though I'm sitting in my home by myself right now and no one can see me, there's still those voices that will come in that's like, you're wasting your time. What are you doing just sitting on the couch looking at your animal? You should be productive. You should be doing something. You should be producing. So now I have that experience where when that starts to come back in, I can remind myself, okay, that's just a voice that I can set aside. Let me find a moment in time. If I can't do multiple days of this type of isolation, at least I can take a few moments in my day. I can have a mindful morning. I can go outside for a walk by myself. I can clear my mind and I can find those pockets of solitude that really remind my soul of what happened when I had that big container.
Yeah. Oh, I love your share as well. And actually, what I wanted to move forward is about which practices or rituals or habits you ladies have to actually then start enjoying our own company. And you just mentioned yours, Kenna, is self-care is that time in solitude, right? To go really within and process those emotions, as Linda said before, and Rachel as well, like all that crying, literally, all that is like a purging of all what it has to go through, even though sometimes we don't even know exactly what is it. And I think one of the things sometimes is like we want to label all those emotions, and sometimes there's not even, a really specific emotion that is in there. It's just about allowing those emotions to go through us, and how liberating, how freeing could be just by doing that. Right. So would you like then to share more, ladies, about what practices or rituals or habits you have to start enjoying your own company and then having that solitude, bring it yeah.
Sure. I mean, I can share. So, the mornings, I always have like kind of like the Miracle Morning book. I kind of do a few of his things. So, definitely prayer and definitely gratitude. Thank you for a new day every time I wake up. And then it's, what do I feel like? Whether it's reading, journaling, always a prayer, and gratitude. And then I usually light a candle, and I try to, it depends how much time I have, but for the morning, I love to have a morning practice, a mindfulness, just knowing, like, not touching the phone and all of that, and just getting connected and grateful. And then evening, I love doing an Epsom salt bath, bubble baths. I love baths. Candles. I love reading. I just hanging with the dog. Writing out gratitude. I started that in 2011 and 12 when I was struggling in my health, and I fought that through gratitude, lighting Shabbat candles every Friday night, which I still do to this day, not always before sundown, and then medicinal and herbal. But anyway, I attacked that illness in multiple different ways. But yeah, so evening practice, morning practice, and then just noticing throughout the day how I'm feeling, paying attention. Like, how do I feel? Oh, I'm feeling this, stress or whatever, and then get away from technology, go for a walk, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, so it really resumes to self-care, right? It really does.
And I pay it, and I'm gonna just say, I saw a post, this friend of mine in Costa Rica, and she's been on the healing journey and all that stuff, and she just had this amazing post yesterday, and it was about we are not, as humans, we're not supposed to, like, we have so much noise now, even more so than ever, like tech, the emails, the texts, the phone, the social media. I mean, we're not designed for this. And that's why our nervous systems, like, we're just really not. And so that's why I'm super conscious around, like, gosh, why do I feel drained? I feel that all this technology stuff is draining us. And so it's just being like, after this, I'm not gonna, like, I could say, I'm not gonna touch the phone. I'm gonna take the dog to the park. I'm gonna do these things. And then, like, like, sometimes I'll put the phone down and go, oh, I'm gonna stay away from that till tomorrow. And then, oh, I want to take a picture. Oh, I want to write something in my calendar. Oh, I want to, remember something. So I put the note, so I'm just saying, like, but I love to pay attention to how I'm feeling throughout the day, and asking myself, what do I need right now?
Yeah, that's a key question. What do I need right now? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Rachel?
I think it's already been alluded to, but it always depends on time, of course,
Of
which
course.
never feels like there's enough. But I think like the key thing, like the one key thing that I'm pretty religious on, I try to do as many days of the week as possible, is just even carving out 10 minutes for meditation, even if it's imperfect meditation, even if I should be sitting and I need to lie down that day, like whatever it looks like, just to like give myself that makes a massive difference. I mean, when I first open my eyes in the morning, I'll quickly close them again and remind myself, due to years of Al-Anon, I guess this is, but the serenity prayer is huge for me every day. And if that's not top of mind, just again, back to gratitude, like, what am I grateful for in this moment?
Yeah.
How can I look at the day ahead of me and like set the intention to, I know that I need to give myself, actually, it's a conscious effort that I need to give myself that alone time and that time to reflect. And that's something I think I've always craved. Like when I was working full time, that was the hardest thing. I would always be like, I need to take a day off and just sit there with my journal or sit there and do a vision board or sit there and get clear on my thoughts. Like it was just like this constant craving inside of me. So now I definitely just try to carve out that time. I love that time so much, like solitude, like that. This is what the whole conversation is. And I think the other really big one is I need nature. I need to be outside. Walking every day I think that is what has, I'm not saying I'm healed, but what is healing me? What if I'm spinning and if I'm in those moments where I'm judging myself or like the boredom or all of this, I just know, just get outside. Doesn't matter the weather, doesn't matter anything, just go. And that's, I think those are my key things. And other thing I would say is like setting the scene for myself too. Like when I know I'm going to have like a nice span of time of like being alone, like really appreciating that, like my environment is so important, and like lighting a soy candle or like just, like the lighting matters, like all of these things. Music is huge. Podcasts that I've been like waiting to listen to on my walk, or even like, as much as I know technology can be the enemy sometimes, I feel like it's nice to sometimes just have like, a list of shows on Netflix that I'm waiting for that opportunity to watch that one. And it just feels exciting and like kind of like romanticizing that whole experience, I guess I'd say.
Yeah. Thank you for your share. Yeah, definitely nature is medicine. It really helps us to get out of our minds. Yeah. And I love what you said about then just craving those times from here or there, like I'm not a mom, but you two ladies are a mom. I don't know, you cannot. So it's about craving those times and choosing and knowing, like, why we enjoy the most. Because it's simple, as you said. I mean, yeah, we can go then to a spa, but then can have a bath at home, as Linda said. Just listening to music, all those little things that are part of our, that we can put them as part of our self-care, that can make the difference for us to then feel cozy within and enjoy our own company then, right?
Even a good meal too, like good food,
Oh,
that's really fun.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Mhm. Kenna, you already did your share, but I don't know if you would like to add something else.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, I think that it's really, I think it's important to really just step into every moment with presence and mindfulness. And I think that life gets busy and we have a lot to do and we wake up and we don't feel like we have the time necessarily. I mean, I love a long, 3-hour morning practice of meditation and
Oh,
movement
yes.
and journaling and all of those things. Don't always get an opportunity to do that, but certainly that's an ideal scenario. But I think just taking the first sip of your coffee and really appreciating it and being mindful of it and smelling it and being with it and feeling it go down your throat and feeling the warmth in the back of your mouth, that can be a moment to reconnect to your soul and to be in solitude and to take back, as almost a rebellion, the busyness that we're told we should constantly be doing. And I also agree that like all of the notifications and the dinging and the vibrating and all the things, like every time that happens, whether it's our phone or someone else's, it like pulls us into this like stress response, like
Yes.
cortisol spikes.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, what do I need to be worried about? What do I need to be doing? And so I put my phone on do not disturb most days all the time, so that when I'm ready to go and look and see who's contacted me or what I need to manage, I'm going there with an intentionality of like, okay, now I'm ready for this, as opposed to feeling like I'm on, call for every single person who has access to me, even if it's just through social media. So I think we can be rebellious in our solitude and in our decision to step out of what society is telling us is required. And I think every little moment is a decision that we're making. So in every moment just adds more until it becomes a way of life.
Yeah. Mhm. Thank you. Do you ladies consider that because of being in solitude, doing that really cocooning part, was that kind of like the catalyst for you to get into true self-love and the feeling of worthiness?
I've been working on the self-love for a long time, but with my last probably 6 months or year, I'm just really noticing, like I'm also studying like the internal family systems, the IFS, where it's like, any big emotion is an inner child, like your 10-year-old self, if you have some big emotion, whether it's anger or sad, it could be like, your 10-year-old self, your 12-year-old self, or something like this. And also I wanted to share, I didn't mention, is I've been doing EFT tapping, which is helping me with a lot of things.
Yeah.
But because the body keeps the score, and who knew, I've been working on the mindset for years, but not the body, like releasing through the body. So that was really pivotal and healing for me big time this year. But so you asked, oh, solitude. I think basically the self-love, it's when you notice, I follow all these spiritual teachers like Kathleen Cameron and Kathy Keller and all this, and it's so vital. I recognize that it's literally the key to the castle, like giving ourselves grace, knowing you are worthy just for breathing. I never knew that. I didn't know that. I was taught it's how you look, it's this, it's all these things. And it's like, Rachel, when you talked about like, oh, I should be doing something, like I was that person. We have a program of do, or we're not worthy, or we're not productive if we're not productive. And we do it to ourselves. We're like, we set these lists and check marks and, oh, I feel good about myself because I checked all these boxes. But it's like, what if we just gave ourselves this freedom of, no, I don't have to do anything. I'm worthy to sit here. I'm worthy for someone to take care of me. I'm worthy to, I used to have these, I don't know, I could talk for hours, but the point is, we are worthy of love, and we're worthy of our own love. And that's really how you're going to receive everything, is once we love and accept ourselves, like truly, like it doesn't, if you didn't get to the gym, you're not beating yourself up. You're giving yourself grace. It's compassion, self-compassion. I can't say it enough. And it's like, I guess so when you get super crystal clear and that's what you want and for yourself, and you know that you're lacking, when you hear one negative thing that shows up, you just, you have to give. One thing is, I noticed, is when that mean voice, that mean inner mean girl shows up, it's like, who is that? And start loving, sending love there. That's how it goes away. It's like a 5-year-old that's jealous, a 5-year-old that's angry. Are they worthy of love? Yeah. It doesn't matter if she's stomping her feet or screaming, whatever. She's worthy of love. So, yeah, it's just, I've been really working on it lately, and it's a game changer, guys. It just is. We are all worthy just for breathing. So when you know that, and I think the carrying the shame for so many years, I felt unworthy, undeserving. I don't deserve it. I'm bad. I was bad. I made a mistake. I was a child. I had poor parenting. I made a mistake because, and then you punish yourself. And then and shame is one of the lowest vibrations you can carry. So talk about, vibrations and, energy and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's also a program. Feeling unworthy, it's that program, right?
Yeah.
And I do agree with you, Linda, that it's about listening to those voices as our little girl or whatever it is that we consider our shadow. Because one of the things that I realized is when I really listened to it and I started saying, yeah, you're part of me. You are. And start accepting it and understanding it. It's really until I put that shadow side that we call and that light together that I was like, oh yeah, now I can say I love myself truly. Otherwise, I don't think we can actually arrive to that level of love for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, you have to, I mean, I love what Linda said about self-compassion, because to me, that is self-love. Like we can't love something that we don't have compassion for. And for us to recognize that we're all doing the best we can do, and everyone that raised us did the best they could do. And that we chose, in my belief, to step into the life that we did and to go through the battles and the circumstances and the struggles and the transformational portals that we've been through. And I also think that solitude is self-love. And so I think that it's like it's on both sides of the coin. So for me, taking that space and having that experience and providing the solitude, that was a way for me to love myself. And it's made it easier for me to then give myself other moments of self-care or self-love, or, taking time to nurture myself, or to gift myself something that feels luxurious, or, nourishing, because that's really what we're wanting. We're wanting to, that little girl in us just wants to feel like she's allowed and she's worthy of having a nice warm bath, or getting a pedicure and painting her nails the bright color that she really wants, no matter what anybody else thinks, or get polka dots on it for all the, just, I just think there's such a connection between the compassion, the self-compassion, and the self-love, and self-love and solitude being one and the same.
I just have to say one thing that comes to mind when you talked about that is when you're on the journey and you're making progress when you choose to be alone with your dog versus being with someone that's negative or draining, because you would rather be home by yourself than be around any, like, I don't just go to be with people to be with people. I'd rather be home alone with the dog than be with around anyone that's going to lower my vibration or, drain my energy, or, because we connect, we are who we associate with. So that's really something that's one of the reasons I'm alone a lot, is because I haven't found people that, in my area. I mean, I love you guys. I love like the online ladies and stuff, but like around me, there hasn't been like the average. I just can't do it. I don't like being around negativity, and I know that's part of whatever, but so that's just a thing. I that's partly why I'm alone a lot, but I like my life. I mean, I'm trying to date a little bit, but anyway, but yeah, I just had to throw that in.
Mhm. Thank you, Linda. So what about you, Rachel? What has been like your your road to self-love and worthiness?
I just honestly, I just love this topic so much. Like I could be here all day. I think, yeah, again, it's just like everyone's been so wise here and said like it's all about your mindset. And like so much of it is just like sitting, feeling your feelings, the inner child stuff, like has been huge, huge somatically, like whatever I feel like I can release on that level. Um, even going outside and putting my feet on the grass, like all of that energetic stuff.
Yeah.
I just feel like everything that we're feeling is just like an invitation to go deeper. And, if you're experiencing loneliness, it probably suggests that you have the time to go deeper and explore some of those things. So I guess like gratitude for the luxury that is even. And there's always, I say always, always, always something to be grateful for. And I truly believe that. I guess also like another thing that comes to mind is I think solitude is the ability to be alone and enjoy it. And if it offers this sturdiness, not only like a foundation of sturdiness for yourself, but then you can give that to other people. So like if you can't love, forgive, accept yourself, and like go into those deep practices of like learning how to do that and really like enjoy getting yourself away from the distractions and go deep enough within yourself to get to those places, even if you're not healing them, you're aware of them, you're, like talking to the inner child, like all of that. You have so much more of a foundation for everything else in your life, in the world. And just that, even that intuitive knowing, like Linda's saying, like I totally understand not wanting to be around people. And I think through embracing the solitude and these practices, that's how you find your people, because it's like this intuitive thing where it's like, okay, you are aligned. And I think there is so much to say. I mean, for me, especially like this online world and these communities that we've discovered, thank God. Like,
Yes.
because in my day-to-day life, I don't know these people, and I've been searching since childhood. And I can't say enough. Like, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for finding the solitude, the opportunities to have it. And I do think it's like, that has been the absolute like catalyst to, I mean, I'm still in this change. I don't have any huge successes to report other than I've been finding my people along the way. And to me, that connection and that level of living is everything. So I hope that answers that question.
Yes, it does. Oh, thank you. Ah, oh, wow. I think I'm going to be inviting you again to the three of you so actually we can actually talk more about self-love and worthiness, because I know that's a topic that we can continue talking and talking about. Okay, so I would like to finish this because, well, it's the Midlife Butterfly, and one of the topics of my podcast that I enjoy a lot is the pleasures in life. So I would like to know actually, what is a simple pleasure of yours?
There's a lot. I would say for me, chocolate, and my dog, probably my dog and nature.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, dark chocolate. I'm into that too. Kenna?
Well, I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but I mean, really having opportunities where I have solitude and no agenda, just kind of allowing life to unfold, and for me to just step into that intuitive living, whatever my heart wants to do, whatever my soul wants to do, whatever feels good to do, and living from that place as much as I can. And so maybe for something simpler, I love to start every morning with a cup of hot water and a half a lemon or lime squeezed in. And if there's just something about that just really like, it's very yummy.
Yes, I love it. Yes, thank you for your share. What about you, Rachel?
Oh, all of those things, but and I've already said it. But just nature, just being outside and connecting with, I mean, it's a spiritual experience for me. Like, I'm somebody who will, if I'm having a hard day, I'll look for a sign or I'll ask for a sign. And it's just like, like the adventure in that, just like going out, being on a walk and just embracing everything around is the best. Nature's the best.
Thank you. What beautiful shares. And wow, I think it's amazing to recognize that, there are simple pleasures, but that are so simple, no cost. It's just putting our energy there, putting the willingness, and it makes a difference in our days. Right. Well, thank you again, each of you, Kenna, Rachel, Linda. It has been an honor to have you here. And I can't wait to share this. It's been magical. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good.
Yes. Thank you for tuning into Midlife Butterfly. If this episode lit a spark in you, hit that subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you love to listen, so you'll never miss the magic. If you're feeling generous, drop a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps this empowering content reach more souls ready to transform their lives. And don't forget to take a photo of you while listening and share it on your socials. You can tag me at KennaSU so I can celebrate you and your expansion. Until next time, keep spreading those wings and living in joy, growth, and pleasure.